Welcome back, and we're back on our X5, and we recently made a lot of progress on this entire car because we were finally at that point where we can add a lot of parts back and start by building this car up to finally finish it. And when we're doing this, we're trying to give you guys the most amount of information we can to kind of show you guys what is possible and to not be scared about working on your own cars, because there are a lot of people out there scared to work on their own cars. Keep watching and then you'll also see that there's nothing to be scared of. And in this video, we're going to be continuing down there with the front drive shafts. But before we move on, I'm going to give you guys a quick recap on what we've done to the car recently. And the two biggest parts that we've done is swap out this entire chassis leg, which was a huge challenge and never really thought that we would touch anything structural on the car. And then also before that, pulled the engine out, and now recently finally put the engine back in. Got this entire corner with the suspension and everything in place, which also looks really great. And then also in the last video, we worked a lot underneath the entire car. We got the entire drive shaft hooked up, put all the heat shields back, and hooked up a lot of other stuff like the entire exhaust and stuff like that. And then also did a couple small parts in the front. And this is also what we're going to be doing in this video. As I said, we're going to start off with the drive shaft because this is an X-Drive, the four-wheel drive, and the front two aren't in place yet. That's what we're going to start off with, and then we're going to head on to the top and do a lot of electrical stuff. And putting this drive shaft in shouldn't be too complicated because looking at it, the entire drive shaft in the front, they are only connected and bolted on with one big bolt, which is in the center right here, this one in the middle, and the rest in the back, it just slides into place. But that's not really the only thing that we have to do now. Since we built everything up here and also on the other side, we do have to disconnect this drop link from the sway bar and then also the steering rack part right here so that we can bend it out, because we don't actually have to take it out. So we can just twist the entire knuckle, put it back up into there, and then put it into here and put the screw in, and then that should be it. But we're going to start off with disconnecting the drop link from the sway bar. We're going to do both sides at the same time since we already have the tools in the hand, just to make it a little bit faster, and then also do the steering rack. And here's the one for the front right side, which is a little bit longer than the other side. So we're gonna have to see if the sway bar is in the way or not, because looking at it right now, it kind of looks like it's in the way and we can't really bend it up or down. So we're gonna try it out and see if it fits. And what we also did in the meantime, since we knew that this is gonna be open for a little bit, we closed it off and put a towel in there so that no dirt can get in there. And we also just jacked it up a little bit to create a little bit more space, because that's also what we did to take it out. So hopefully it should work now. Now we have it in place, kind of, and slid all the way back into the diff. And now you can also see why we had to jack it up a little bit, because here is where the suspension or the strut ends down here, and this kind of gives us the space that we need to slide down into here. And yeah, now we can clip it into there, because back there it's not really bolted into place. It just kind of clipped together and just pushed together, which was kind of weird seeing it at first. And then after clicking that back piece in, we can then put the front piece into here, put the screw in. And something important about the back, you can't just like hammer it in or tap it in to clip it in. You have to twist it a little bit to actually feel that the gears or the little teeth align, so that you don't break anything or just smash it up completely. So that's what we're gonna do now. And now we're gonna put a little bit of pressure on it and twist it, and I just slid right into place. And yeah, now the teeth align, and now we can clip it in. And before we clip it in, we just realized that we can already secure this front piece so that it can run away and move anywhere. So that's what we're gonna do now. We're gonna lower this and put the bolt in and everything to secure the front, and then we can hammer it in the back. And one interesting fact about this end of the drive shaft is that this end with the gear doesn't get lubricated, because you want them to sit nice and tight together and don't want them to move at all, because they move together. It's not like a diff where the gears kind of just go together and separate again, so you don't want to lubricate it. Just make sure that you don't get it dirty so you don't have any debris in there and then damage it. Now we have both sides in place. This upper piece right here, which connects to the diff, just gets, as I said, clipped into place, and you don't need a lot of force just tap a little bit. We put a little wood piece right here, if it would focus right here, as you can see right here, and just tap it lightly, and then it just clips right into place. And now we can do this side with this one big bolt. And as you can see, when I try tightening it, it spins, so I'm gonna have my dad go in the car and hit the brakes so that I can tighten this. And this also has a torque spec. So that's one drive shaft in, and now we can move on to the other one. Here is drive shaft number 2, which is for the front left side, and as you can see, it's a little bit shorter, which is also gonna make it a little bit easier. And it is shorter because the diff sits a little bit more to the left side. So now we're gonna install this one. And the same thing like on the other side, we also put a paper towel on this side to keep it clean, and also back here. And this one definitely soaked up a lot of oil, which is why it's green. It was blue before, but yeah, now we can install the drive shaft. So now we have both drive shafts in place. We can put everything back that we took off, for example, the steering rack and also the drop link for the sway bar. And the exact same thing on this side, and after that we can torque it down. So now we finally have that done, and as you just saw when I tightened everything down to the torque spec, that the impact driver didn't tighten everything the same, so you can't really put your full trust into it that it tightens everything the same. But it's a good tool to loosen stuff, but not the best to tighten stuff. Next up, we're going to continue here on the top. We're going to continue with the electrical stuff with the ECUs. For example, on this side, we have this one right here and this one, which both go in these two boxes right here. They just slide into place, clip into place, and then also the boxes just have one screw each and then also clip into place. And that's what we're going to continue with now. And down here, this little holder where these boxes just clip into place, we notice that there is a screw down here and not one of these little clips, because this was on the chassis leg of the structural cut. And we know that the structural cut wasn't from an M50i, it was from the smaller one. There are a few differences, but the chassis and everything is still the same, obviously. So we're just going to have to take that out and then we can continue. So now we have everything in the box, but we can't really close it off yet because this entire harness up here still has two plugs that need to be in here. So that's what we're going to do now so that we don't close it off and then forget anything. And we can also get this harness out of the way. And now we have everything sorted out. We have this connected up here, and also everything inside of the box is connected. And also down here, everything that goes down here, we had 2 more plugs that go all the way down here, and got everything sorted out. Stuff like this gets attached to the frame, everything, which we still need to put on the front end, so we can't do that right now. Same with this. This is for the big fan, which needs a lot of power, so that's why the plug is that big. This should be done, and then we can throw the cover on, and then we're going to continue with the other side. And now we can move on to the other side. But before we actually install the box and throw the ECU in, we have a couple other things that we need to do first. For example, these coolant lines and stuff like that, that all come from the engine to the front. They're all on the side, and we have to connect a couple of those because the box covers it. For example, for this AC line, we need to connect it to the back, and then also this little line that we have to connect. So a couple things before we actually touch the ECU. So now that we got all the hoses and everything connected, we can start with the box. But on this side, we have an extra coolant tank that sits in the corner, and then the box comes here. And one more thing that we also have is also another set of wiring harness, which is not the easiest. And the wiring harness on some points sits behind the coolant tank. So we have to do the wiring harness first, then we can put the coolant tank, and then to just make it a little bit easier, we are just gonna disconnect the 4 or 5 plugs from the ECU and just take a picture of it and put it into the box so you don't have to cramp around in a tight space. Just makes it a little bit easier. Now after getting the wiring harness out the way, we can now start with the coolant tank, which just is clipped in, which I didn't really believe at first. But yeah, just clipped in, then has a plug at the bottom, and then just a couple of lines that attach to it. And now we finally got everything in, and we still had these 2 plugs, which I knew beforehand, but I kind of forgot about them. And this plug goes all the way at the end, and you can't just get it in because this kind of flips around, and these restrict you from flipping around. So now we have to take all these 5 plugs out again, and then put this last one in again, and then put them all back. And now after we were doing these plugs again, we found this guy again, which we found at the start too, and we found that the plug itself from the harness was broken. And now we just took the broken part off, and we can order that one new, so that's what we're going to do. So for right now, it's like this. It just gets connected right here and into this pump right here. So can't do that yet, but we're going to do these plugs on the ECU real quick. And now we can also connect the fuel line. And also this line, which we still aren't too sure about what it was for, but it comes from the same direction where the fuel line comes from, and also connects up here. Now we can also do the cover for the ECU box. And this is actually starting to look really good and looking way cleaner than before, where everything was just like put onto the engine and a lot of tape everywhere, cables that are loose. But it's actually starting to fill up pretty well and looking really good. And now we're going to continue back here to the power supply to the engine. And for stuff like this, you might be confused on which one goes to the left and which one goes to the right. And most of the time, stuff like this already has its like designated form, and you can't really switch it up because these already kind of fall to its natural point where it would be. But just for safety, we already marked it here with a small piece of tape just for the left one. You wouldn't really need it, but just for safety. Now we're going to continue with this brace, which just sits right here. Next up, we're going to add the air filter boxes onto the engine, which is going to make it look a lot better. And all these parts which we're using are still parts that came off of the car when we got it, because none of these were damaged, which is really good. So now we're going to head on with these and throw them onto the engine. And now we finally reached another huge milestone on this entire car, which is the engine that we connected everything without any problems. Everything was pretty straightforward, didn't have any surprises on the way. And this is just another finishing touch to kind of finish off this chapter with the engine. Super excited that we finally can put stuff like this on, and it just kind of gives it the finished touch and makes it look really good. And I think right now is a good time to like and subscribe if you enjoy it, and let's continue. So now, after completing all of this, which looks amazing, we now are going to move on, and we are going to move on to the hood to kind of test fit fenders and all of that. And as of right now, we have both of the original hood hinges on here. And one thing that is said about the hinges, that if you are in a crash, that they're very likely to bend, so it's just better to swap them out immediately so that you don't get in trouble with any panel gaps. And another thing is also that in Europe they have regulations with it that they need explosives so that the hood can kind of pop up if you hit a pedestrian or whatever, but they don't have that in the US, I think, because cars here don't really come with that, so you don't have to really swap it out because of that. But you could have damages with it. But what we're going to do now is test fit the hood, see if it fits or if we have to move the hinges. We already have new hinges, so we're just going to see if these already go, but we're gonna get with the hood. And here's the hood which I was talking about, and from a distance it looks like a perfect hood, but looking closer on it, we can see up here that there are damages to it, and also on this corner a pretty bad bend with the paint chipped off. And this is not the hood that we're going to be using in the end for the car, but we are just going to be using it for body panels and stuff like that. And this was also super cheap, which is extremely hard to find cheap hoods that still have the original shape with the width and stuff like that. And this is also something to kind of experiment around with damages like these on panels like these because my dad really wanted to learn stuff like this, and it's definitely not bad to learn new things. So this is kind of just an experiment. We were in Miami for a little bit and we saw this one and just picked it up for I think maybe $100, which is really good. So yeah, this is just kind of an experiment. We are gonna pop it up on the car in a little bit, but we are gonna do a little bit on these dents, and then we are gonna throw it onto the car. So now that we have the hood on, when you look at it from the front, it actually doesn't even look too bad. Also kind of surprising how far the car still goes in the front. If you think about it, the hood ends here and there's still going to be a little bit of bumper, so there's still a lot of room in here. But also the other side, as you also just saw, if you also look from the front, also doesn't look too bad. But we can't really let it down all the way because, as I said, here's a little bit damaged where it's completely bent down, and that's kind of hitting up on here. So what we're gonna do now is take it out again and kind of try to bend it straight so that it doesn't hit, and so that we can close it down all the way. So we now fixed this corner, not really fixed it, but bent it back a little bit so that it doesn't hit. And now when we close the hood, it doesn't hit anymore, but we can definitely see that this entire piece sits way too low. And we weren't really sure on what it is, and this hood is still sitting up because there is this little stopper right here which hits this bolt, which you can see when it closes there all the way in there. That's where it stops. So we were thinking that this hinge was bent, and also looking at this side, when we push down a little bit, this panel gap actually looks pretty decent and really good, but this side not yet. And if we also look inside, we can see after we looked more into it that this hinge is definitely bent, because up here, if we look between here, we have a big gap, and on the other side there is barely any gap. So we are definitely going to be swapping out this hinge, and that's what we're going to be doing now. And since this hood also had damages, we aren't really sure if the positioning, everything with that corner, for example, being too far down, if that is just the hinge or also the hood, because the hood possibly also has a little bit of damage and might not be sitting perfectly. But we are going to be swapping that hinge out definitely, and yeah, let's do that. So first off with the hood, and that is the hood off, and now we can move on to the hinges. And we do have both of the hinges new, and we were thinking if we just do this one, it's better to be safe and sorry to just swap both of these out, because both of them were kind of in a crash. Don't know if both of them are damaged. This one definitely is. Since we're already at it, we're just going to do both of them. And now we have one of the hinges out, and this is the one that was on the car, the old one, which is damaged, and here is our new one. And you can already see that the gap up here is definitely a little bit smaller and also consistent versus here, which is a little bit bigger on this side and smaller here. So this one is like 90% sure that this one is damaged. So good thing that we swapped it out. And we can also see the old marks of where these screws sat, and they are pretty similar. This is almost in the center. Here is the exact same, and the same for the top ones. This one is very high, and the same on this one. So pretty interesting that these are the same. But now let's get the other one out. So now number 2 is also out, and we did notice at the start that this one is way closer, the little gap up here, but after looking at the new one right here, we did notice that this one is consistent completely, but this one is closer up here and farther apart down here. So this one also might be damaged, so also good that we are swapping this one out. And also the same with the holes are all pretty similar. So now let's get the new ones in. And now that everything is in place and secured, we can put the hood back on. The hood is on, and if we put it down, it actually goes all the way down and don't have to force it down. And since they are different hinges, the panel gaps now are a little bit different, so it's closer up here, a little bit further away up here, so we're gonna have to change that on the hinge. A little bit bigger panel gap, but we knew that because of the fender and everything of the brackets being a little bit misplaced. Yeah, this already from the height is better and is not sticking too far out now. Definitely changed a lot just with those hinges. Now we are gonna correct it a little bit with the fitment on this side and then see what we're gonna do with that side. And now we aligned the hood and put it more into the center, which meant loosening a lot of screws and also opening the hood multiple times. But now we have it sitting in the middle. The gap looks a little bit too wide, but we aren't really too sure right now what this panel gap should be. The measurement of it up here also looks really good. Looking from the side, obviously this is a little bit wider because this is bent down still, but everything else looks really good. Also this side looks very consistent all the way up here. And we also have to push this fender a little bit inside because this one also took a little bit of a hit. As you can see up here, the paint chipped a little bit in the crash when the old hood pushed into it. So this one was also not in the right position, but this already looks way better than before, and I'm super happy with how it turned out. And none of this is final. This is just a very, very rough starting point, which tells us that we're going in the right direction, and it definitely looks like it. And next up, we're going to be doing all the underbody panel and also the wheelhouse liner, because that's the only thing that we haven't done yet for underneath. Also this little piece that go on the corners back here for the underbody panels, and then also the same on this side. Have two right here, then the wheelhouse liner, and then also one small piece which sits behind this entire suspension piece. There are definitely a lot of screws for all of this, but we're gonna throw these under the car now. Now after doing all the panels that go under the car, we can now do the wheelhouse liners, and everything under the car is done. We are gonna have to go under the car for these 4 screws for the wheelhouse liner, but everything else is done, and it's definitely a messy job because there's so much dust down there, but we're gonna get this in there and also do the other side. Now we have everything onto the car, all the wheelhouse liner and all the underbody panels, and definitely took a little bit, and also really dusty and dirty underneath the car. Starting to look really good. Also under the car, a little hard to film everything that was under the car, especially because we don't have a lift sadly, and because everything's so close under the ground. Finally got that done, and now we can move on. And next up, we're gonna be working on the support frame right here, because as we can see, there is no weld anymore on 3 sides where there should be a weld. And we had this problem from the start, and we never fixed it, but we obviously wanted to fix it, and we wanted to fix it before we build up the entire front. So what we're gonna do now is clean it off completely, the seam sealer and everything, because we're gonna have a welder come in and weld this up for us so that we have it done. So obviously it needs a little bit of space to weld it. So we're gonna clean off the seam sealer, on all 3 sides and then clean it so that he can weld it. Now this already looks a little bit better, cleaned it up, and what we're also doing now is taking away a little bit of material around here where you can see where it kind of like touches right here, because in the crash when this chassis leg went a little bit to the left, this entire thing got ripped off and also stretched. That's why it's not connected anymore. It stretched a little bit of the material, and right now as you can see there is a gap on the top, and you don't really want that. It's much closer now after doing this, and that's because this obviously is touching because of the extra material. So what we're doing now is taking it away, and then there should be no more tension and it should sit on there completely smooth. Now as you can see, it looks really good, and we do have a gap, but here as you can see, if we push it closer, that's where it should be. So that's gonna look really good at the end, and yeah, this is all cleaned up now, and now we're gonna wait for him to get here, and then he's gonna weld this thing up. So here we now have the finished up welds, and this looks really good. And you might be wondering and saying that this doesn't really look that good, but this black part up here, everything is just smoke from the glue itself, and then also the seams that are burning a little bit because this obviously got hot. And you can see that this weld is very wide, and that's because this plate up here where the support frame attaches to is very thin, and when you obviously heat it up, it'll melt, and under there we have the panel bond, because if you go too deep, you're just gonna have panel bond coming through, and you definitely don't want that. So that's kind of why it looks a little bit thicker. Definitely works and holds everything. So now we're gonna move on. We're gonna be continuing with the entire paint process. So what we're gonna do first, clean everything off, then we're gonna hit it with the primer, and then we can do the seam sealer on everything, and then we can paint it. So now we have it completely clean and also everything else taped up, so that we can now hit it with the primer, and we're only gonna do these parts where the welds actually are, and also obviously up here where we took the paint off. The primer is all dried up now, and we just taped it off a little bit more, and now we can continue with the seam sealer. So now that we have all these seam sealer on there that we need, we're gonna go ahead and touch it up a little bit to make it look a little bit better and smoother, and to cover up everything that we want it to cover up. So now we just smoothed it out a little bit and got everything completely covered up. And for this one, we are also just experimenting around a little bit to also learn more about this, because for this we, for example, took this window shim, we cut it up a little bit because the window shim has ridges on here, and we cut it up so that it has these ridges on the end. As you can see up here, it has the slight texture of those ridges, and that also looks good. And for example, on the other side where we swapped out the entire chassis leg, on this side we also put the seam sealer, and then for this we used the brush. As you can see, also has that texture, but this doesn't look that clean because we obviously did it with the brush, but still looks really good. So as I said, we're just kind of experimenting around, learning more about this and trying to see what works the best. So now we finally got this done. We're gonna let this dry till tomorrow because this needs a little bit of time, and then we can already paint this. The seam sealer is now all done and how we like it and how we would want it. Yeah, now we're gonna continue and we're gonna paint it. And for anyone wondering, we're not gonna close up that hole on the bottom right there of the support frame, because that is for water, because this entire thing has holes along the entire thing where water can get inside, and obviously it needs to be able to leave somewhere, so that's why there is the hole on the bottom. So now we're gonna go ahead and paint it. We already did the primer, and now we're gonna do it with the white. We are just gonna do the white, let it dry overnight, and then continue tomorrow. Now it's finally all painted up, and this already looks really good. That was step 2 of the entire paint process, because again, the entire paint process that we have is 4. The first one is the primer, second one is the white color itself, which we just did. Then the third one is the pearl coat, which gives it that nice pearl finish and the kind of metallic in the color. And then the last one obviously is a clear coat. Yeah, now we got step 2 done, and we're gonna continue with step 3 and 4 tomorrow. It's the next day now, and this is all completely dried up now, and also looks really good. And yesterday, as you just saw, we did step 2, which was the paint itself, the white paint. And now we can do step 3, which is the pearl coat. The pearl coat is now completely on there, so we're gonna let this dry and then continue. And now we can also remove the entire taping. And now this is all finally completed up and looks really good. Really happy with how this turned out. And this definitely will hold and will keep on holding and is doing what it needs to do. Yeah, I'm super glad that we finally got this done. Got a lot done today, made a lot of progress. And also, as you can see, part of the progress that we made in this video is that we put the hood on, and again, this is not the final hood that we're using. We just bought it because it was cheap and we can use it for the fitment and also to experiment on it and learn more about it, so we can maybe put our own dents into it and try to get it out to make it look good as possible for future projects, just to kind of experiment around on it. And also got a lot done under the hood itself. This looks absolutely amazing and beautiful, and I'm super glad that we finally got all this done. Definitely took a little bit with a couple of connectors and stuff like that. Finally got that done, and also underneath the car, we got everything from the back to the front to about where the engine is. Got everything under there completely done. And as I said, super glad that we finally got all this done. And in next week's video, we are gonna be working on the front if we look from the side. As you can see, there's a lot of room between here to where the bumper actually will be. So that's also gonna be a big step which we're gonna be taking. Yeah, as I said, I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on the post notification. Drive safe and stay tuned.